Hashem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach. We're going to continue as Hashem in the Hilchot Tzurba Rabbanan series. We're on to volume 17. Tonight's shir is shir number 10. Okay, so it's the 10th shir, 10th new shir of new content. We did have one Chazar shir. And we are starting the third and final shir in Kiddush, Hilchot of Kiddush. So let's continue. The Gemara Pesachim in source number 1 on page 61. Amar Ravuna Amar Rav Tam Einu Mekadosh. Rava Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel Tam Mekadosh. Rava Hilchata Tam Mekadosh. What's going on over here? There's a question amongst the rabbis in the Gemara: if one ate food, can he still make Kiddush? Okay, and one opinion is if you eat before Kiddush, you can't make Kiddush anymore. Okay, the way the Rishonim, the Ravid, the way he understands this is that if you didn't show honor to Shabbat by making Kiddush and you ate, you don't have permission to make Kiddush anymore. You have to hear someone else make Kiddush for you. But another opinion is the Shmuel, and the halacha is like our Shmuel, that what? Even if you ate accidentally, you can still make Kiddush. You still have to stop and you have to make Kiddush. And that's the halacha l'maisa. Now, what we're trying to show over here is that you're really not supposed to be eating before Kiddush, right? If you ate, maybe you can make Kiddush, maybe you can't. We say you could, but there is that possibility, that thought that you should not be eating before Kiddush. And says the Rambam in source number 2, until he makes Kiddush. And the minute Shabbos comes in, until a person makes Kiddush, he can't eat or drink wine, says the Rambam. So too when Shabbos comes out, all the time, person can't eat, drink, or do any malacha until he makes Havdalah. The Rambam says, mutar. Right? If you saw in the beginning, he said drinking wine before Kiddush is not allowed, eating before Kiddush is not allowed. But he says at the end, water is permissible. But the Shulchan Aruch writes in source number 3, klum. Before you make Kiddush, you can't taste nothing. Afilu mayim. And that's the way we paskin halacha is that even water before Kiddush you should not be drinking. Right. This is definitely Friday night, right? Even Shabbos morning, once the chiyuv of Kiddush comes in, you shouldn't really be eating or drinking anything before you make Kiddush. Now, on the next page, on page 62, on source number 4, the Magen Avraham wants to talk about, what about if I don't want to drink the water? I just want to rinse my mouth with water. So he says, it seems to me that it's permitted to wash one's mouth, since when doing so, one does not have the enjoyment of tasting in mind. This is from the Trumat Hadeshin as well. So you're telling us the halacha is that a person cannot even drink water before Kiddush. So the Magen Avraham says, yeah, that's drinking when you want to drink. But if you want to swish water in your mouth to rinse out your mouth, that would be permissible. That's the Magen Avraham. However, I saw brought down from the Ben Ish Chai that the Ben Ish Chai writes, person really shouldn't be doing this. The only time you should rinse your mouth out before Kiddush is if you fasted all Friday and now your mouth, you want to get it a little bit wet so you can talk or you can, function normally. So then you can swish it out before Kiddush. But on the other hand, the Ben Ish Chai seems to be saying that that one should not even swish out his mouth with water before Kiddush. Although halakha we say it is permissible, the Ben Ish Chai is strict and said you shouldn't do that. Now, when does this prohibition of eating before Kiddush come into effect? So the Magen Avraham explains, when it comes dark, even if you didn't accept Shabbat, meaning once Tzet comes in, once we say it's Shabbat, right? So once it's dark, he writes, we're going to say from Shkia, right? So Shkia already we say it's Shabbat. So at that point, no longer can a person eat or drink. They have to make Kiddush. If you accept Shabbat early, then it's from when you accept Shabbat. If you accept the Shabbat early, then whatever time you accept the Shabbat, you can no longer eat until you make Kiddush. So 2 ways that you cannot be able to eat. Number 1, it's when the night actually falls, when it's actually Shabbat actually comes in, or if you take it in early, once it's Shabbat, you can no longer eat without Kiddush. Okay, I'm just going to read here from the laws of Shabbat outside of the Tzurba for one moment. Laws of Shabbat, Sefer Chayo Olamim Rabbi Nakson. He writes, after Shkia on Erev Shabbat on Friday, it's forbidden to eat or drink before saying Kiddush. Even drinking water is forbidden. Okay. However, he writes over here, if it's ben hashmashot, it's between Shkia, between sunset and nightfall, and you're very thirsty, then maybe you'll be allowed to drink some water. But if you already prayed Aravit, which means you already accepted Shabbat, then you could definitely not drink water, even if it's before Shkia. Okay? Because once you accept Shabbat, you can no longer. All right. What about the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata on page 62, source number 5? Asks another question. Okay, we know we can't drink water. We know that we could rinse our mouth, but the Ben Ish Chai says don't even rinse your mouth. We know it comes from when Shabbat starts, whether it's actual time or from when I accept Shabbat. What happens if I have to eat, I have to take medicine, okay? And the doctors say that I have to take medicine at a certain time.
No problem.
Okay, and now it's before Kiddush, so I shouldn't really be eating or drinking. But can I take my medication? Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata says, if a person has to take medicine, he has to take it before his meal at a certain time, even though he didn't make Kiddush, he will be allowed to do this. So it is permissible. Again, you shouldn't be enjoying your water. That's the whole thing. So it seems to me if you're taking it for medication, you shouldn't. Here in the Sefer Chayo Olamim, Rabbi Nakson brings down a comment over here that if it's easily, you can wait to after saying Kiddush, then you should wait, right? A lot of times, so just a little bit, as nurses, we can tell you that when we give medications in the hospital, if it's ordered for 8 o'clock, not everyone's getting it exactly at 8 o'clock. We actually have an hour before and an hour after to give it, okay? Meaning, if you tell you every 12 hours take it, if you take it 11 hours or you take it 13 hours, it's not the end of the world. So if you think you have to take your medication exactly at 6, right, and you have to be before Kiddush, you could, but you should know you can actually wait a little bit and don't take it.
My medication,
Yeah.
I have to go take it before food.
You have to take it before food.
So
even if it has to be before the Kiddush, before wine. So then you will be permissible.
Yeah.
Okay. What now? Moving on to source number 6. What happens if a person doesn't have what to make Kiddush on? Okay? The guy is not home. The guy is somewhere else. He wasn't able to get any Shabbat food. You told me I can't eat without Kiddush. So he doesn't have bread to make Kiddush on bread. He doesn't have wine to make Kiddush on wine. He has in front of him fruits, vegetables, and rice and meat. Okay? But he doesn't have what to make Kiddush on.
Right.
So what does he do?
That's it.
So what does he do?
I don't know.
What did he fast Lo Shabbat?
No, he says the bracha of the Kiddush.
Okay, so a few things he can do. First of all, he should have in mind to make Kiddush in the davening, right? In the prayers, we say that. That's number 1. That should be. But the truth is, if he doesn't have Kiddush, he doesn't have what to make Kiddush on. The halacha is he can say Kiddush, but not the bracha at the end. Not the bracha to Hashem, because Shabbat he cannot say. He can say the Kiddush words, Vaychulu, Sari Maranan. He doesn't have a geffen, he can't say geffen. He can say the beginning of the bracha without Hashem's name, and he ends off without Hashem's name, and then he eats the food that he has. Now, this is the case if he knows he's not going to have wine or grape juice or bread to make Kiddush at all. But if he knows that in about an hour, someone will be coming through with kosher wine or kosher bread, then he should technically wait and not eat. Technically wait. But he does not have to fast if he doesn't have what to make Kiddush on.
Right.
I want to read out. That was from the Magen Avraham on page 62, source number 6. But I'm going to read outside from the Rabbi Nakson, Sefer Chayo Olamim. He says, I mean, Kiddush would not be recited if one does not have wine or bread. You only could do Kiddush on those stuff. And one fulfills the Doraita Kiddush in his prayers. One does not have to fast, and one may eat without reciting Kiddush. What he should do, he should say Kiddush before he eats without the name of Hashem, and then recite the bracha of the food that one wants to eat. If a person didn't have food, he didn't have a bread or wine, and he just started eating because he didn't have, and then wine was brought to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so then he's going to have to make Kiddush when he gets the wine or bread. So even though at the time he didn't have wine and bread, he was allowed to eat, but now comes the wine and the bread, he's going to have to stop and he's going to have to make Kiddush.
I was thinking maybe if it's hour, maybe more, maybe just eat.
Yeah.
Eat. And then when it comes, make
Right.
the
So
Kiddush.
the Magen Avraham
Make-
says,
make-
"We come
make
up
the
nearly the im. It's going to come. And he should wait a little. Kolpanim achatzois laila. Magen Avraham says you should wait till midnight. You're saying 1 hour. Magen Avraham says wait till midnight.
Because
Yeah, wait till midnight. Okay, so there's an Indian. You should really not be eating without Kiddush. No, you're in such a circumstance. If you don't know where you're going to get it from, you can start eating. Okay, now we come to the next Indian. We're on page 64.
What about the Indian of not fasting?
Yeah,
Shabbat?
so therefore you're allowed to eat after Chatzot. Okay, unless,
Until Chatzot, you didn't eat the whole
if
day.
it's possible, Kiddush and bread is going to be brought to you to make Kiddush. But if you know you're not going to have anything, you don't have to wait. You can eat, Magen Avraham says. Okay, page 64. Dealing now with another topic. Sitting or standing. And this is the famous topic. Sitting or standing. Okay? Sfaradim Ashkenazim have a little different minhagim sometimes when it comes to sitting and standing for Kiddush and Havdalah. There are many Ashkenazim who stand for Havdalah. Okay, it's actually an Indian for them to stand by Havdalah. Friday nights, we're going to see there's a difference of opinion. Should they stand? Should they sit? Shabbat morning, there's a difference of opinion. Stand or sit. Okay, so what do we do? Why do we do what we do? So the first thing to know, it's all based on the Gemara Masechah Berachot. Gemara Masechah Berachot in the 6th parak tells us if one person wants to make a bracha for other people, right? In order for that to happen, the people all have to be reclining. Because in the times of the Talmud, the way they ate, in a group, they all sat down and they reclined. And that reclining made them into a group. And then one could say the bracha and could be motzi others. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch on page 64, source number 7, he says, "V'lididan having yeshiva kimo heseva l'didan." He says today sitting around the table is like the reclining in the times of the Talmud. That means we're gathering around to eat together. Okay,
This is the kind of yeshiva.
right?
Yeah, everybody sit.
But if l'didan the leislan heseva ain't chilik bein pas v'yayin l'shard dvarim. Makes no difference what you're eating or drinking. Mark talks about the difference if it's drinking, if it's eating. Makes no difference. The yeshiva afilu pas v'yayin echa bevarach l'kulam. Once everybody's sitting, then one person can make a bracha for everyone else. B'shaloi b'yeshiva, if you're not sitting, right, then b'shar dvarim nami kol echa bevarach le'atzmo. If you're not sitting at the table, then everyone has to make their own bracha. So here's the issue. Here's the issue.
This Ashkenaz.
No, this is Shulchan Aruch brings this.
We don't.
So here's the issue.
We don't sit.
If we're
at the
not
Kiddush.
sitting at the table,
We don't sit
then maybe you're not in the group, and then one person cannot make a bracha for everyone else, right? Tosfot already brings this. Tosfot brings this to source number 8, Masechta Berachot. He says, "Tzarich kitzas." You have to have a little in over here, a little in depth. Mehavdalah shanu mavdilin. But the Ashkenazim, Tosfot says in his time, Ashkenazim, they didn't have dalah. The Omdim, they stood. Yeah, Havdalah, they stood. Hey, te'ech anu hoitrin zed zem miyayin mehavdalah achri she'en anu lo yoshev lo mesuvin b'shemi. So he says we're not sitting, we're not reclining, we're not all together, we're all just standing. So how can one person make Havdalah for others? Because in order to be yotzei others, we have to be together, and that happens by sitting around the table.
What happened to the kavanah?
So Tosfot says that perhaps mitoch shekovin atzman kidei let's say they havdalah kavei nami akula milsa. He says perhaps since we're all coming to listen to his havdalah, so we're going to be yotzei through everything, meaning that we're all there gathered to get this. So therefore we're gathered. It's fine.
So you don't need to sit.
It would be okay. It would be okay to stand. But he writes and he ends off that it's preferable. Taisha says, sit down for Havdalah. Because you want to be Yotze through the other person's Havdalah, you got to be sitting. So Tosfot recommends Ashkenazim in his time who were standing by Havdalah to sit. Even though he says there's a way to understand it, better sit.
So today,
Now the Kolbo, in source number 9, he says, no. You should make Havdalah standing. Why? What's Havdalah? Havdalah it's Malvin. We're doing Malvin Malka. We're escorting the queen. You don't escort the queen by sitting down. In order to escort, you got to be standing. Right? You got to walk the queen out. So he says you have to stand. He says Derech Levaya is standing. The Kiddush Nami. He says, since you have to sit by the meal, therefore we sit by Kiddush, but really you should be standing by Kiddush also. Okay? Kobo says you should stand. Why? Alt kavod. Because of kavod to Shabbat, kavod. For that you should stand. But we sit by Kiddush because we're eating a Suda, but Havdalah we stand. That's the Kobo.
Talking about Erev Shabbat, right?
Yeah, we're talking about Friday night right now.
Oh,
Bet Yosef writes.
who's that?
Bet Yosef, Arishon. You have a book right here. If ever it's a blue, that's a Rishon. So, and by the way, before every shear, it's color coded. So you have Tanakh is like the orange, Talmud is red, Rishonim are blue, Achronim are green, and then today's poskim is a purple.
Wow.
So you can know who's talking, where they are. So the Bet Yosef.
Shulchan Aruch is the Acharon? I thought it was a Rishon, no? Shulchan Aruch is the Acharon. Over here, Shulchan Aruch. Bet Yosef is blue, and Shulchan Aruch isn't it the same?
Is really he's compiling the opinions of the Rishonim, right? He goes into explaining how everyone explains. So it's considered a Rishon in that sense. Okay, Shulchan Aruch, I guess it's already his code, and I understand, if my understanding correct, then it's considered an Akwa. Okay, the Bet Yosef writes, the li near the Mikalish Ma'omad Nami. It's also when you're standing, you can do it, and everyone's gathered. Kivan the Samach l'Shulchanhu, because you're close to the table. Okay, meaning you were telling me in order to be Yotza, one person for others, then everyone has to be sitting around the table. So the Bet Yosef says standing close to the table is like you're at the table, and everyone's connected there. Therefore, you can make Kiddush that way. And in fact, he writes the Rambam, another Rishon, says b'chagas sukkos tzarich lekadosh me'omad. You have to do it standing. You have to make Kiddush standing. Okay, because remember, the Rambam is always about doing the bracha before doing the mitzvah, right? And sleishek v'sukkah, understanding it means to sit in the sukkah. So you have to stand and say the bracha. All right, and then you sit, and then you go to the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah. Okay, so he says to make Kiddush standing. So if you make Kiddush standing, that means you can be Mikalish for others standing. So it says standing near the table is considered like sitting at the table. That's what the Bet Yosef writes. It says in Shulchan Aruch in source number 11, the person should say Vaychulu standing, and then he makes the bracha of Kiddush. It is all done standing. Says the Ramah. He says V'yachol la'amud b'shas Kiddush. You could stand during Kiddush. V'yoter tov leishev, and it's better to sit. Ashkenazim, says the Ramah, it's better for them to sit during Kiddush. And even they should sit during the Vaychulu. Rak kishematchilin. Only when they begin, they stand a little bit. L'chvod Hashem, for the honor of the name, because we start, Yom Hashishi Vaychulu Hashemayim is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Right? You see the bold Yud Kei Vav and Kei. So since Yom Hashishi Vaychulu Hashemayim is Yud Kei Vav Kei, for that to honor God's name, they stand for those 4 words and then they sit down. Okay, that is the Ramah. Okay, so you have the Shulchan Aruch says stand. Ramah says better to sit. The Mishnah Brura writes that the Vilna Gaon also said a person should sit. And he brings that's what it's done. That person should be particular about this, and they should sit. The Birkei Yosef, okay, Birkei Yosef, I believe that's the Chida, right? Yeah. He writes that the Maharash Vital would say the nighttime Kiddush standing and the daytime Kiddush sitting. What we do, okay? The Penina Halacha Rimalame, current Paisik, he writes that the Hasidim and Sephardim do like this Birkei Yosef, which is also the Arizal and others that say to stand for Friday night and to sit for Shabbat day and to sit for Havdalah. Okay, that's the way we end up doing it. Here in the laws of Shabbat, for Rabbi Nachshon, outside the Tzurba for a moment, he writes over here on Friday night, according to the Rizal, on most Sephardic customs, I'm not aware of any Sephardic custom that does not do this way, but perhaps there is. A bracha of Kiddush should be recited while standing. And then, how do you drink the wine? Sitting. Okay, that's derech eretz, right? Derech eretz is to sit and drink. They would say, they say over here in the comment in the bottom over here, they say the Chacham Ovadia would allow, and he himself would sometimes drink a little bit while standing and then sit. And his reason for that was he was scared that if he would sit right away, it would spill and it would get stuff dirty and stuff like that. So a little bit to drink in order for it not to spill, which is also derech eretz, and then sit down and you drink the cup. Okay. No, you should not put it down. It should remain in your hand. Okay. The Halacha Brura brings us that you should not put it down. You have to keep holding it. Okay. You have to hold the coast. You can't let it go. And he writes, if you're afraid it's going to spill, then you should drink a little bit of it and then sit with it. But you shouldn't let it go. What?
What about
change the position of the coast on your hand? Yes. Can you put it in your left hand? I saw somewhere it says you should not put it in your left hand.
Look. You're holding like this.
Yeah.
Sit down, like this, or then go like this again. This give it off. Just feel it, then you sit down.
Okay. Fine.
What about women?
What about women?
They have to stand too for the Kiddush Friday night.
Everybody stand.
Because in the Bukharian custom, I think they used to women sit, men stand.
It's a mistaken custom.
It's a mistaken. Thank you.
100%. 100%. If you're making Kiddush, there's some old Bukharian custom by certain groups of Bukhara, not by all, especially for those from Bukhara, that the woman would not stand during Friday night Kiddush.
You know why? Because they were secondary.
They were second class.
That's why they had to sit and then show the men like he's somebody.
So I looked into the Indian and I spoke to many Rabbanim about it. Actually, I asked Rabbi Shai Tahan, I asked Rabbi Chaimov, I asked others. So I know in Samarkand that was never the minhag, at least from those who from the old days told me that never had that. The woman always stood. They told me it's a mistaken minhag. The thing is, if everybody's standing, then everyone has to be a group and they have to be equal. And if everybody's testifying to Kiddush, which women's obligation in Kiddush is exactly like the men's, then there should be no difference in the position of what they're doing. Now, do you have to stand? The minhag is to stand. Can you sit? You could sit. Everyone can sit. Everyone can stand. But our minhag is to stand. Everybody should stand. There should not be a differentiation of who sits and stands. Also, I know there was a minhag that the woman wouldn't drink out of a cup. They would drink out of the bottom of the plate. Again, second class.
Second class.
Again, not our minhag. Not our minhag. Everybody Baruch Hashem has cups. Everybody sits. Okay. Yeah, you saw that also. Hey, there was it was a different world. Now we have equal rights. Okay, fine. Continuing to another famous topic about covering the challah during Kiddush. Okay, covering the challah during Kiddush. First of all, this means, or at least this assumes, that the challah should be on the table for Kiddush. Okay, that's another topic. Do you need the challah on the table? Not necessarily. not necessarily, because the Gemara says that they would make Kiddush and then they would bring the table. Okay? They would make Kiddush and then bring the table. It means that they would bring the bread and all the other food afterwards. Because they used to have all the private tables. So right there, everyone had its own table. So you make Kiddush and then they brought you the table with the food. So perhaps you don't eat it. But the minhag is the minhag is
if you don't have the bread.
And it means they're going to bring the table afterwards. Kiddush and Malkum Suda doesn't mean you need to have the Suda in front of you.
No, I understand, but if you have
Kiddush
the
and
bread,
Malkum Suda, which you're going to get into at the end, means you have to eat at the place that you're drinking.
if you
Making
have the
Kiddush.
bread, makes it more.
Okay,
Kiddush
fine. We're going to go with the push-up shot that your bread should be on the table. Okay? Now, here he goes. Start with the Gemara. Rabbi Rav Huna came to the house of the Reish Galusa, and they brought a table from him. Right? They brought a table before him, and it was Shabbos already. So he took a cloth and he put it over the food. By the way, he put it over the food. He didn't just put it over the bread. Rav Soloveitchik, Yoshev Soloveitchik, used to cover his whole table, Shabbos table, the whole table before Kiddush. And the whole table was covered. He would go to a hotel somewhere, if he was sitting at a table, the whole table was covered, not just the bread. Because here it says he covered the table, everything that was on it. Okay, but we'll go with this bread. He spread a cloth over the food and recited Kiddush. This is also told in the Braita. One may bring the table only if he has already said Kiddush. Bring the table only after Kiddush. And if you brought it beforehand, you got to put a mappa over the table. Okay? This is the source in the Gemara. Now,
I know the English says over the food, but
what are you putting the mappa on? Huh? What are you putting the mappa on?
Right.
On the table.
say what you want.
On the table.
Say
He
what you
has-
want. I'm just saying that you don't see it from the word.
Okay, so what are you doing with the handkerchief? Just putting the handkerchief in the air? What are you doing with it?
Bread,
How do you know his
table,
bread there?
the-
How do you know his bread there?
You just said that there was no table there.
You don't know what's there. What did it
You
say?
don't know. Okay,
Where did it say it was bread there?
That's my point. that
So
you don't know
then
anything.
it means
You
it covered. So what it means is, I'll explain to you. They had a private table. And over the private table, they
But there
covered it
wasn't
with a
table there.
cloth.
There wasn't a table. You just said it a minute ago.
So they said, read it again. Read the end of the Braita. Only if you make Kiddush, then you bring the table. Vim heavy, and if you already brought the table, for this mappa, you put a mappa over the table and you make Kiddush.
We just
It's
have
pashut.
No, Meir Chaim.
Read
We have
the
to understand.
Braita.
Those days, if they bring you the table, they bring you the table with the
Everything. Everything
food.
was
With the food. Not like today, you sit, and
Course
then
one, course
they
two.
start
No.
bringing. They bring you the
It's the
table with the
pashut shot and the Braita
So
is
if
covered
you
the
put
table.
them
Or it's
you
mappa
put them
with
up
that.
on
Okay.
on the
Anyway,
food.
the Rashbam says, why is this so? The reason that the table should only be brought after Kiddush is explained in the Shiltot of Rav Achai Gaon. By the way, the Gaonim make a big show in this week's shir. And he writes, we do not bring the table before citing Kiddush in order that the meal will come for the honor of Shabbat. Meaning, we don't want the food to show up before Kiddush, because then I don't know it's for Shabbat. If I bring the food before Kiddush, then the food's just there. But if I make Kiddush, and now you bring me the food, this is the Chod Shabbat Kodesh. And then,
when it's halal,
then
we're putting all
Rav Soloveitchik would cover even the salads. He would cover everything. He said, I want to make.
And you eat the saladim before hamotzi?
No. He's saying that my main meal is not on the table. And so it comes for Kavod Shabbat. But like I said, Rav Soloveitchik, based on the Pasha shot of this Gemara, would cover his whole table.
So
Okay.
tell me.
We would just cover the bread.
So what is
Okay.
this thing like this Rav
Wait.
was during the week seeing a good fish? This is Chvot Shabbos, and this is Chvot Shabbos the whole week.
Okay, so what's
And
wrong?
over here, you're saying if it did
You want
to
to
do,
show it. You want to show it. The point is to show it. We know it. We got to show it. Okay, Tosfot gives another reason. And he says it's Zecher Haman, Zecher Laman. Okay? Right. So this comes another shot. As some say you should have a cover under the bread and a cover above the bread. Okay? Or some say it shouldn't be a cover under the bread, it should be just on the table. Your table is the bottom, and then one over it. So maybe you shouldn't use a platter. There are different opinions on that. But it should be covered on both ends somehow, right? And that's Zecher Laman. That's Tosfot. That's second opinion. And the Rosh brings the third opinion, and that's the famous opinion everybody knows, is that what? You don't want to embarrass the bread. Because really, you should make the bracha on motzi first. But you have to make Kiddush, and you want to do it over wine. So we cover the bread, and we don't embarrass the bread that way. By the way, bread doesn't really have feelings. Okay, breads don't have feelings, and you can read the machshava at the end of the shir on your own. I probably not got time for it, but the idea is, the Rush brings this down, is that we should learn not to embarrass people. If you're going to be careful of not embarrassing bread, you're being very careful of not embarrassing stones, you're going to be careful of not embarrassing inanimate objects, then you'll come to know to not embarrass people either. Okay, you can read the Machshava. They bring two stories at the end. Rav Salanter, Rav Shraga Fire Mendelovich, very interesting stories. I recommend you to read it. So we have three reasons of why we cover the challah. Okay, we'll say challah. The Mishnah Berurah brings down that not only he says, depending on what reason, as if you're saying it's for the mun, then even if you're making kiddush on bread, you should still keep it covered. Okay, because it's zeich laman, the mun was covered. Right. Only the Rush who says that it's because of embarrassing the wine. So then you wouldn't have to cover it during.
I see some Ashkenazim. They put the mapa and on the bread and the mevarchim.
Make hamotzi.
Make hamotzi. Yeah.
Okay. So we don't do that. We don't do that. What? You do hamotzi under the bread, under the cover? Lama? We don't do that. It's not our minhag to do that. What we do is that if you actually make kiddush on bread, you would make the vaychulu while holding the bread underneath, okay? And then when you come to the hamotzi, you would take it out, okay? There are different minhagim of when to take off the cover of the bread. Some people make kiddush and they immediately remove the cover, and that's going with the Rush. That the only reason why you covered it was because of the wine. So the minute the wine's out of the picture, you can uncover it. But if you hold that because of the man, or you hold kavod Shabbat, so maybe kavod Shabbat also you can pull out right away after the kiddush because it's already kavod Shabbat. But if it's the man, maybe you would keep it on longer. Okay. The what else does anything else have to be covered? Okay, so we said bread. So the Gemara seems to be saying everything. Soloveitchik did do that. That was his practice of covering everything. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, right? That not only bread, but anything that's borei minei mezonot. So anything that's borei minei mezonot should also be covered. Okay, so if you have cakes and the like,
like we do here,
that we should cover the cakes and the like when we're making kiddush. However, the Tamei HaMinhagim writes that no, Kishmekadish b'shachris b'shabbos v'archol pasa b'kisnin ain't tzarich l'tzlois pasa b'kisnin b'shatz kiddush. He says you don't have to, because remember we had he says because it's only hamotzi and it's not really other things, therefore you don't have to cover pata b'kisnin. So whether you have to cover pata b'kisnin, you have to cover mizonot, it's a machloket. Also, remember, don't forget, we have the opinion that we don't hold this way, but there's an opinion that says Shabbat morning you really don't even need kiddush because you already make kiddush Friday night and it's already okay to eat without kiddush. We don't hold that way, but there's such an opinion. So perhaps it's Shabbat morning. There's less of a need to cover part of a kiss. And before you have a problem, 1 second. Rosh Zaman Orbach also gets into: do I have to cover the whole table's mizonot or breads? Like we had a Shabbat HaGadol, right? We did a Shabbat HaGadol when everybody had bread at the seat, right? You go to Sheva Brachos or whatever it is. Everybody has bread at the seat,
right?
Right. So everybody's going to cover their bread. Everyone's going to cover the non tokim. Everyone's going to cover every mizonot. A lot of coverings.
The minhag.
Okay. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach wants to say that perhaps only the guy who's making kiddush, the bread in front of him, the mizonot in front of him has to be covered. Maybe not everyone else. Okay. So there are different deot on this. I want to read from the laws of Shabbat. Rabbi Nachshon, he writes over here. He says, we're going to look first at Halacha 81 over here. One should cover any mizonot, such as cookies, crackers, or cakes that are on the table. He says, if one is only listening to the kiddush being recited and will not be drinking from the wine, then he does not have to cover the mizanot in front of him. Okay? So what this means, I'm hearing Kiddush, but I'm not planning to drink the Kiddush. All I have to do is hear Kiddush. So then I don't have to cover the mizanot in front of him because I'm not drinking the wine. He wants to give you that option out. Another one, he writes over here, when many people are eating together at different tables and listening to one person recite Kiddush, whoever has bread in front of him should cover it during the Kiddush. Someone said maybe not. We talked about that already. Maybe the only guy making the Kiddush. However, anyone who comes late to the meal must recite his own Kiddush, or if each person is eating his own meal, then those who are not taking part in that person's Kiddush does not have to cover their bread. Meaning, I'm sitting at a table with 20 people, and Joe comes late. Joe's making Kiddush now. Okay, Joe's you. You came late. Okay? Malo Yosef Haimov came late, and he's making Kiddush now. He put himself with this. I don't have to cover my bread. I don't have to cover my bread because he's doing his own Kiddush. He's not part of my meal. Okay? So there is room for leniency if you're sitting at a big meal that perhaps you don't have to.
Yeah, but my question I want to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
You say if he has mizanot according to one Manda Amal, you don't have to cover the mizanot, right? But I'm saying if you make already the Kiddush of Shabbat, Kiddush b'makom seudah, if you consider the mizanot seudah, so it should have the same thing like the bread.
Right. You're right.
And that's what the Kiddush says.
Right, he's not to say that.
You have to cover.
But he wants to say when it says Eretz Chita means bread and not a baba kisman. That's a tamei minhagim. There are leniencies. You have a tamei minhagim. You have a shlomo zaman orbach. You have perhaps you don't even need kiddush. So if it's happening and you see it on Shabbos morning, you have what to rely on. Friday night, you should make the effort of covering it. You still have shlomo zaman orbach. Maybe the guy who's only making kiddush, maybe he needs to. If you're not drinking it, then perhaps you also have you can get out of it. But Friday night you should make all the effort to cover it. Shabbos morning, when it's not bread, there's rooms to be makel, but a person should try to cover any mizonot.
Don't make a fight out of it.
Don't make a fight out of it. Don't make a fight. Okay. Yes. There was bread. Right. There was. The question is, could you cover all of them? It was.
So if one guy make the kiddush for everybody, the Rav says you don't need.
So this is another whole thing.
Only him.
So this is another whole thing. I maybe I would suggest don't bring the bread out until after kiddush. Right. Yeah. Bring the bread to the main guy, cover it, and then the other breads bring after kiddush.
Right.
But that requires more service. You need more waiters. There's not so many Jose's and other people around, so it's going to be harder. It's easier to prepare it, right? Easy to get it out earlier. Okay. I've seen in some places that I've been, what they do is instead of putting it on everybody's seat, they put it in the middle and they cover it. And so it's easier to cover with one instead of covering every individual bread. You put all the breads in the middle and you cover it with one big cover in each table, and then afterwards you take it. Then there are ways to get around. Okay. Now we're going to come in to the next topic, which is an interesting topic: drinking from the Kiddush cup. Okay, drinking from the. Yes. Okay.
So the mezonot stuff, you said the one who recites the Kiddush has to cover it if it's in front of him.
For sure. That's for sure. No one argues on that.
What if it's on the same table, just a little bit away from him, towards the other guest, on the same table? Do I have to cover it or no?
Technically, you should cover it. Yes.
It should be covered. Okay,
should be covered. If it's not covered or something like that, and it's Shabbat morning, you have room to be lenient. But Friday night, you should make all efforts to cover. Okay? Fine. Drinking from the Kiddush cup. Gemara Pesachim tells us, by the way, a lot of these halachas are found in the 10th parak of Pesachim. Why is it found there? Arvei Pesachim, what does the parak talk about? Talks about Seder night. Seder night, you have a lot of Kiddush. So a lot of Hilchot of Kiddush and Avdallah are found there. Okay, Pesachim says, Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav, Chayin Rav Gidol, Rav Gidol Deman Nerish, okay, teaches that what? Hamikadosh v'tam loy lugma yatzav imlav lo yatzav. You have to drink the malay lugma. Person who make kiddush has to taste the malay lugma, and he's yatza kiddush. If he doesn't, he's not yatza kiddush. What's malay lugma? So Tosfot in the next source says it means a majority of a revi'it. Okay, so a revi'it is how much? A revi'it is how much? You said
84.
Yeah. How much? 86. Okay.
86.
86 milliliters, 86 cc. So what is a majority of half of a majority? Would be
60,
a cheekful, but how much should it be?
44.
43, right? If
Well, why did you say
44.
cheekful? The cheekful is a majority.
Majority. Tosa says it means a majority. He says, "V'ner shehu rov revi'it." A malay lugma means a rov revi'it. It means a rov revi'it.
Well, if he has a small mouth,
It means rov revi'it.
Exactly.
It means rov revi'it. I understand what you're saying. I'm telling you it's not. It means rov revi'it. That means, for example, we tell you on Seder night, get a small cup that fills the revi'it. So because you have to drink rov kos, right? So rov revi'it of the kos would be easy for you to drink.
The Rav
Okay.
Gidel is not talking about Revi'it. He's talking about
He says
Melolog
Malay
Mat.
Lugma. And Taisus explains what Malay Lugma is.
Tosfos.
Taisus said Malay Lugma means a rov revi'it.
Tosfos
Okay.
Ashkenazim, ah.
No. Tzarech l'shtot. Look at the Shulchan Aruch. Tzarech l'shtot mikol shekiddush k'malay lugma. The hainu. What is that? Kol shekiddush l'tzad echa b'piv v'yir malay lugma. V'hu rov shel revi'it. Shulchan Aruch says it. Farther. There you go. It says that a malay lugma means your side of your cheek is full, and it means it's a rov revi'it. Get the bar mitzvah. It means rov revi'it. Zeu. It means rov revi'it. Okay. Now, why? Tosfos explains why it has to be rov revi'it. It says because that's called settling of the mind. Okay, it's meisiv data means he drank something. I feel like I drank something. If you drink less than the rov revi'it, it's not considered that you drank anything. We're going to deal with that in a moment. Okay, we're going to be dealing with that in a moment. You shouldn't do that. You have to drink malay lugma. You have to drink malay lugma. And if you're going to put, and if you're going to,
if they add together, then
okay, that's also possible. That's already second degree. Everyone says it really the drinker, the making kiddush should drink a malay lugma. And if you're pouring the wine first out of your cup, you have to make sure you have a bit of wine left in it.
Yeah. What we do, we should Melolog Mat, and then we add to the other.
Okay, we'll deal with that, Rabotai. Let me get there. Okay. Okay. So that's what we say. You have to drink a malay. Then the Bet Yosef brings an interesting case. Bet Yosef says a guy made kiddush. Guy took a cup of wine, made kiddush, finished making kiddush, and Joe right over here, comes in and he knocks him over. The whole kiddush spills. Okay, what happens now? He has to make another kiddush. He didn't drink it. The Kiddush Shabbat, he's about to sit and drink it, and Joe comes over and knocks it out of him. The whole thing spills down. So what happens? So says the Bet Yosef that if the spilled the cup before one tasted it, he does not need to say kiddush again. Because when the Gemara says he didn't taste, he did not fulfill his obligations, means he didn't be yotza the mitzvah kitakana, the way they originally wanted you to make it. But the truth is, kiddush is kiddush without even drinking. Right? That's what the Bet Yosef wants to say.
That's why Rabbi Ovadia just drank it. While standing, he drank a little bit.
Maybe. Okay.
That's
Now,
to
Magen
prevent
Avraham now
this.
says that I don't understand this Bet Yosef. Because a few lines later in the Bet Yosef, he writes that he has to make, he has to get Kiddush again. Either he makes Bor Priya Geffen again, or he hears other person to make Kiddush. So why is he saying in one place you don't have to make Kiddush again, and then again he says you have to make Kiddush? About the same case, about spilling. He says, nearly the Chazar for Shulchan Aruch because of Sheivad Kais Achar V'Yitam Mimeni. Bring a second cup and you have to drink some wine. Make another Bor Priya Geffen and drink the wine. Okay? So the Magen Avraham says the Bet Yosef went back and said you have to make another Bor Priya Geffen, another one. The Or L'Tzion says no such doing. He says V'imkein ein lanu ela devrei maran sheb'diavad yatsa yedei chovat kiddush even without drinking the wine. Okay, spilled out, you don't have to make another kiddush. Says the Or L'Tzion. Or L'Tzion says Kamakam near shetay lechem l'shmoy kiddush avdal b'kol acher. Go listen somewhere else. Someone actually going to drink it. That's the better option. But technically, you don't have to make kiddush again once it's spilled. Now, so we have very, very, very contrasting opinions over here. 1 minute you told me that you have to drink the rov revi'it, and then we see from the Bet Yosef or L'Tzion that you don't even have to drink anything. Just you make kiddush, that's fine. Okay. Now the Gaonim make another show here. Okay? Comes the Gaonim. The tour brings the Gaonim. It says that no, shelo yatsa ela imken ta'am hamikadesh. The one who makes kiddush has to drink it. Not, if he didn't drink it, it wasn't yatsa kiddush. That's the Geonim. But the Rosh wrote differently. His father, he said that, you know what? Other people can drink the Malol Lugma. Right? This is the opinion of the Rosh. The Rosh says, it doesn't have to be the one who made Kiddush. Someone else can drink it. Okay? The Ritva says not only that, but let's say no one at the table can stand this wine, meaning it's a very strong wine. And no one can drink a Malay Lugma. The Ritva says that perhaps if everybody on the table takes a little piece, a little drink, that altogether it turns to be a rov revi'it, that also combines. Okay? So you have another opinion of the Ritva. So the Shulchan Aruch comes, and Shulchan Aruch brings all three opinions. He says each one, right? He says in Loi Tam Mekadesh, right? The person saying Kiddush didn't drink it. The time Echam Esuvim Kimoi Lugma of Yatza. Okay, if he didn't drink it, but someone else can drink it, good. Vein Shtiyat Shnayim Mitzvah Lugma, but two people cannot connect. We call Malkum Mitzvah Mavchar Shit Amu Kulam, that everyone should drink some of the wine. V'yesh Armin the Kivin Sheben Kulam Tamu Kimoi Lugma of Yatzu, and there are those who say if everybody drinks a little bit and it gets to Malay Lugma, it's also fine. The Shtiyat Kulam Mitzvahs L'Chshir, because it comes to the Shir, everybody. The Goinim Soivrim Shimul Tamu Mekadosh Lo Yatza. You should be you should be worried about their words, that the person who's making Kiddush should be the one drinking it. But dafka be Kiddush. And Shulchan Aruch is a very important topic over here. This is very important for everything to know. This is dafka be Kiddush. Of l'shar dvarim, hataonim kois, but everything else that needs a cup, brit milah, chuppah v'kiddushin, anything else that you use a cup, there no one says that the person who says the bracha must drink it. Modim ha'gaonim desagim b'timias acher, that someone else can drink it. The only time the Geonim say that the person making it has to drink it is by Kiddush, by Chuppah v'Kiddushin, by Brit Milah and other things. It's fine one person makes a bracha and someone else drinks it. So here we have, Shulchan Aruch says you should be worried about the Geonim by Kiddush, and the person making the Kiddush should be the one drinking it. Okay? So Mishavur says this means you should worry about the Geonim, the person making the Kiddush, the one drinking it. And the Chazon Ovadia, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, says the same thing. The main view of the Shulchan Aruch is that the person saying Kiddush should be the one drinking it. Or one of those dining must taste a cheekful, and this requirement is critical, that someone should drink from it. The person making Kiddush, one of the Mesuvim, one of them sitting there, should drink a Malay Lugma. It is critical. The Shemir Shemat Kilchata, he wants to go even further. He wants to say you can give it to a child, right? You could drink a little bit and then give the child to drink the Malay Lugma, right? I don't know if we go with the child business, but we do go that you can give it to somebody else. So where does this show up? Halacha, practically speaking, someone has their saba, someone has their bobo at the table, and this guy already cannot drink so much wine. Okay? But you want to be mechaber him with Kiddush. Should you be mechaber him if he can't drink the Malay Lugma? So lechatchila, we shouldn't. Okay? The person lechatchila, we should be worried about the Gaonim Shita, that the person making Kiddush should be the one drinking the wine. However, if it's a family event and it really needs to be seen that he is the one in charge and it's giving him kavod and it's going to make him feel well and stuff like that, you have what to rely on, that if others are drinking it, and to even starve to the shear.
Who is it? Who?
Everybody.
Shulchan Aruch says you can go even as far as giving everybody the ability to.
Sorry? Who?
Okay, I put them on mute. Okay, fine. Right, so you do have that opinion also, but we try not to use that opinion if not needed. Okay, we should try to drink. One of them should drink, right? Because the Chazon Ovadia says that first opinion, him or someone else to drink the Malugim, shouldn't be broken up into many. We try not to hold of that opinion if it's not needed. Okay, just trying to look for a moment in the Sefer Chayei Olamim, and he writes Malugmav. If a person didn't drink it, it wasn't Yaitza unless someone else drank it, just like the Shulchan Aruch Chazon Ovadia said. He said in the Lechatchila, person making Kiddush is the one drinking it. and don't give it to someone else. You do it the right way. He also says, make it very clear that no one else really has to drink it. Just the person making Kiddush is the only person who really has to drink it. No one else has to drink the Kiddush wine. We do it to show kavod, Shabbat, to the Kiddush wine. We give everyone to drink from it, but not necessarily have to do that. We're going to talk in a minute what problems that might come up about giving other people to drink. Might be an issue with it. Okay, fine. Let's take a look at the next section, what we're going to call a defective cup, right? This is a pagum in the kos. Okay, what's the pagum in the wine? What is pagum? So this really comes in the hilchos of koshel bracha. We find in the Shulchan Aruch when it talks about koshel bracha, we use the Birkat Hamazon. So pagum wine means that someone drank from that wine already. Okay, so if I had a cup of wine and I took a sip, I can no longer make Kiddush on that wine. Same thing is if I took a barrel, I took a bottle and I drank the bottle. I can no longer use that bottle for Kiddush. If I even had a whole vat, right, a whole barrel of where they produced the wine, and I drank from that wine, the whole wine cannot be used anymore for Kiddush. You can rectify it. You can rectify it. How do you rectify it? How do you fix it? Put a little bit of wine in it. A little bit of wine. They say you can also put a little bit of water, but a little bit of wine, that's the way usually done. I remember growing up in my grandmother's house, they used to use this strong wine, so my uncles couldn't finish it. They make Kiddush, and they left the wine over. I remember my grandmother used to come, take the bottle, pour new wine in it, and then she would pour the whole kos back into the bottle, right? So she was mitaking the kos and then put it in. Technically, if you did put it in directly, this is already tough topic, but just to get you an idea what it is, if you did put it in directly into the bottle, we would say that it is bottle. Each drop that went in was bottle in the wine, and it would still be okay. When we get to those halachos, we're looking into more. But what? Yes. Also, each drop is mevatel, or do we say that it all comes in together and it's all great? But let's move on further. So we have this din of pogum, which means if you already use the cup, you can't use it again. So the Rush tells us as follows. Let's say you're making Kiddush. Let's say you're making Kiddush. And everybody around you has a cup of wine, but they already drank from their cup of wine. So says the Rush, what do? Everybody has their own cup, but they already drank from their cup. You make Kiddush on a new cup. So what do? Put a little bit of your wine into everybody's cup, and you fix their cup.
Before you drink.
Right, so we'll deal with that in a minute. Hold on. This is what he says. Okay? Okay, now the Rah says, no, they're not required to drink from the same cup of the blessing. Simply, they're not required to taste from the same loaf. He says the kos pogum is only a problem for the person making Kiddush and not for everyone else. Okay? That's the Ra'ah. He wants to say the pogum is only a problem for the person making Kiddush, not for the other people. Shulchan Aruch says, it's not necessary to pour from the cup of the person reciting Kiddush in the cups in the front of those dining with him, unless they were defective. Meaning, if they have pogum koses, then you have to put in them to make them non-pogum for them. And they all should drink from cups, she'enu pogum, that are not pogum. So everybody needs wine that's not pogum, according to the Shulchan Aruch. Everybody who's drinking has to drink wine that's not pogum. Okay?
You don't drink until the person make the Kiddush.
Now, the Shar Hatzion, he writes, now, what happens if I have my kos and I'm drinking from it after Kiddush? And now I'm giving everybody else at the table to drink it. Is it pogum already? Is I drink it? Good. So he says, no. He says, not pogum. Why? Because it's the same cup. Make Kiddush on this cup, so everybody drinks it. It's an extension of my drinking, and therefore it's not pogum. Okay, so now what happens? What happens? The next case is what happens if I drank the cup? Now, Sharatio said if everyone's drinking from the same cup, it's fine. But no one wants to drink from the same cup. Now I'm pouring it into other cups. But I'm pouring from a cup that was already drank from. Right? He said the cost itself is not considered pogum, right? Because it's the same wine everybody's getting. Would it make a difference putting into different cups. So here in the radiance of Shabbat, he writes that it is a difference. You should give them wine that's not pogum. Therefore, the person who recited Kiddush should not pour from the cup that he drank into the listener's cup. Rather, he should do one of two things. Either he drinks from it, then he puts a little bit of water, a little bit of wine into it again, and then pours it out, and then it's no more pogum. Or he pours out from it before he drinks from it, right? He pours out from it before he drinks from it. You must leave it if you eat inside, because you have to have it if you eat inside, and they have to drink mullah lugma. But if you have a big kos, it's very easy to do. You give everybody, and then it's not pogum. However, while I was learning this, I said, hold on. I remember learning Hilchot of pogum in Koshel Bracha, and I remember the Alka Joseph went through this case. And he writes that there's another shita. And the shita, the opinion is that what? Let me bring it up here, page 159, the Alka Joseph Brachot, volume 2. You see how Shabbat connected here now. So he writes over here that he writes it from two sources. He says from himself, and he brings it from Chaim Kanevsky. Who said, 1 second, if you're telling me that if they drink from my kos, even though I drank from it already, it's not considered pogum because it's the same kos, then if I put it into smaller cups, it's the same wine, and it's the same people drinking it, it's not considered pogum. I don't have to add more wine to it and then give it to everybody else. I can give them from the same cup. Okay, so I'm going to read you in the conclusion of his big footnote here, 164, and this kind of has it. It is technically permissible to drink from the cup of wine and then pour from it into other cups for everyone at the table. It is best, however, to pour a bit of wine from the bottle into the cup after drinking from it, and before pouring from that cup into other cups. So there is a chashash that maybe the Mishnah says it is. He says the Turei Zav of Zalman said that it is pogum, therefore you should put a little wine to it. She never paid attention of how you divide the wine, right? So it makes a big difference. Now, I'll just talk about nowadays, and we have a lot to get through, but nowadays people are very finicky, right? Germs, right? Yeah. Germs. So they don't want to drink from someone else's drink. But then they say it's alcohol. Alcohol burns all the germs. The germs doesn't last in alcohol. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what people say, right? Well, think about it. They use alcohol to sterilize, right? They use alcohol to sterilize. So is it? Yeah. They use vodka. People 70% you need. What's it's very little. Okay. I hear you. So germs. People are careful about germs. So there's a couple of ways to do it. First of all, halacha is if you gave everybody a course in the beginning, right? If you gave everybody a course in the beginning before you did Kiddush, everybody's course, no matter how much they have inside, is considered their own kos shel bracha. And you don't have to pour any wine into it after you make Kiddush. What they have in front of them is a kos bracha. They don't need anything else. So you can do that. Or you can you can give wine into it in front of you and then give it out afterwards is also fine.
Even if it's shot cups? Even if it's cups like this?
Yeah, even if it's shot cups. Yeah, because you're the one making Kiddush. They're just having the wine by them. And that's fine. You don't have to do anything after that. Or you can do it the way a lot of people do it. They make the Kiddush, and then they pour it out into the cups, making sure that everybody eats left, and then they drink from it. And this way, everybody's fine. And this works very well when you have guests, right? You have guests. You don't want to give the guests from your cup. Right. In the olden days, it went. Right? In the olden days, it went. I remember going to places in the olden days. Yeah. The guy drinking, everybody drank from the same cup.
Yeah, Bukhari's have the same cup to everyone. Yeah.
I remember, like, as a little kid, I would try to find the place on the cup that I didn't see any lip marks, right? Because this part, this part seems okay. I'll drink from this part. Meanwhile, I didn't even care what was inside. But whatever. Right now, everybody's very careful with germs. So we have to be finicky, and we have to be worried about it. And that's the proper way to divide. That's the proper way to divide the cup. Okay. We're going to come to our last Inyan, I believe. Yeah, and this is the big one. This is Kiddush b'makam Suda. Okay, this is Chaim today. Said Kiddush b'makam Suda multiple times. So we're going to have to go into this din, and this is by the last din that we're dealing with for Kiddush. So Gemara Amzaf Sachem again deals with this idea that there are different opinions about do you need Kiddush in the place you eat. And it comes out, there's a story here that there was boys that were at this rabbi's house and they were going home. And the rabbi said, you hear Kiddush, but eat here because the time you go home, you don't know if you'll have food. And then you won't have Kiddush Makom Suda. And the halacha is like Shmuel, but Kiddush needs to be b'makom suda. Now, what's the reason for Kiddush b'makom suda? So the Rashbam brings two reasons. Look at the Rashbam in source 42. He says, the karata l'Shabbat oneg, Yeshaya says, right? Pasuk Yeshaya, the karata l'Shabbat oneg. The karata l'Shabbat, that's Kiddush. Oneg is food. So you have to have Kiddush with your food. Okay? And then he says, Zechor al hayayin, you have to remember it on the wine. That means what? Remember what on the wine? Suda Shabbos. So again, you have to have Suda with your Kiddush. The question, and you can deal with this in the back of your mind, of what does it mean, Kiddush Shemakim Suda? Does that mean that I need to anchor my Kiddush with a Suda? That means that my Kiddush won't be a Kiddush unless I have Suda? Or does it mean that my Suda needs to have a Kiddush in the beginning? Meaning, like, if I have a Suda of Shabbos without Kiddush, it's not a Suda of Shabbos. Which one is it? Is it my Kiddush needs a Suda or my Suda needs a Kiddush? And you pay attention to these next few halachas, you can plug it in. I'm not going to plug it in for you because we don't have the luxury of the time, but plug it in on your own. Is it my Kiddush needs a Suda or my Suda needs a Kiddush? Okay.
Now the Kiddush not eat, it says, or neither.
Will your Suda not be a Suda without Kiddush? Or your Kiddush won't be a Kiddush without a Suda? Okay, let's think about it in the back of your head. All right, now, so the first question we're going to deal with is what's a Suda? What's a Suda? What's considered a meal? Sion says bread. Okay, so let's take a look. Here makes another Geonim, and it's like a fourth time or third time already. Geonim made an appearance in this week's learning. Okay, again, if you don't have something in the Talmud, the next source to go to is the Geonim. So here we go. So the Geonim writes, "Ein Kiddush Shemakim Suda, ein tzarich sheyigmor sham kol sudato." You don't have to make your whole Suda there. So what are they learning? They're saying that your Kiddush, your Suda doesn't need a Kiddush, right? Your Kiddush needs a Suda, according to the Geonim, right? Because what are they saying? Ein tzarich sheyigmor sham kol sudato. Ela filo achol devar moat o shata kois yayin. This is an interesting idea. The Geonim say you can eat a little bit of bread, or you can drink wine, and that's considered a Suda. So your Kiddush needs something. Your Kiddush needs either drinking wine or eating a little bit of bread. The Gomer Suudasa b'makom acher, and then you can eat your meal somewhere else. That's the Geonim. Okay, the Tzurba brings the Geonim. Tosfot says that Su'udah means tasting bread. He says it's got to be bread. Tosfot says there's no such thing as something small, no such thing as wine. It's got to be real bread. Shulchan Aruch brings down Katua Gaonim. The Gaonim writes, "Had the en kiddush b'makom suda, tu achadaver mu'at, o shata kos yain shechayv l'bracha, yatzei the kiddush b'makom suda." Right, the Gaber says b'makom acher. The dafka achal lechem o shata yain, avol achal peres lo. Kiddush b'makom suda is like the Gaonim, meaning I can have some wine or I can have some bread, a little bit of bread, and that's my kiddush b'makom suda. Okay, fine. The Mishnah Berurah brings down, what does it mean, a small amount of bread? It means a kazait. You'd have a kazait of bread. Drank wine, right? It says, or wine, the Kohanim said. Here the Mishnah Berurah adds on, and this is something that we all hold of, Mine mizonot, bore mine mizonot. Having mizonot can also be considered a seudah. Right? Because if wine can work, says the Mishnah Berurah, then definitely mine mizonot should also work. Mine dagan. Grain. Rice is not pashut that it's really mizonot, okay? Rice is not pashut mizonot. We don't know if oriz in the Gemara actually means rice. Right? Rav Moshe would never make a mizonot on rice. He would get something that's really mizonot and get something that hadama, and then he would eat his rice. It's not pashut. We translate oriz as rice over the years, but it's not necessarily true. We paskin this way, but it's not necessarily true. So it can't be that type of mizonot. In fact, Rice you don't make al-michi afterwards. That's not that rice. We're talking about cookies. Okay, cookies and cakes.
What if you had only...
No. Let me finish. I'm sorry. Let me finish first, and then we don't have a lot of time. If you ate delicacies made from the 5 species of grain, then it's fine. He goes further and writes that there is mizanot. Yeah, we said mizanot is fine. Okay. He writes not fruit. So he says there's a problem. He says you come to a Shabbat Hatan, or they make Kiddush in the shul, and they make Kiddush, and then someone's on a diet, doesn't want to eat the cookies. So he takes the broccoli salad. Very nice. He takes the fish, takes everything else, but not mizanot. What did he just do? He didn't have Kiddush for Makom Suda. He just ate without Kiddush. And that was not allowed. No, he didn't have Kiddush. Because Kiddush is the Makom Suda. And he didn't have Suda. He didn't have Suda. He didn't have Kiddush. He couldn't eat. Okay. We have that opinion. Let's not use it at the moment. We have that opinion. So the Mishnah Berurah continues on page 84, and he writes as the Shiltei Giborim that writes that maybe fruits also. If you consider Suda for Shabbos daytime. But he says it's very weak. It's not a good answer. Shulchan Aruch is more correct. It has to be mizanot. So if someone is really weak and he can't handle it, and he needs to eat something, and he can't have mizanot, then perhaps fruit will work because you have what to rely on. Perhaps you don't really need Kiddush. The other way around this is, what does it mean he has to drink the wine? First of all, in order for wine, this is very interesting. In order for the wine to be Kiddush b'makom Suda, first of all, you have to drink a little lugmav. Majority of it revi'it, and then you have to drink another revi'it. That's considered Kiddush b'makom Suda using wine. So it's revi'it plus a little lugmav. So 86 plus 4 is 43. 44. 86 plus 44 cc of wine in order to consider it. And only the person who drinks it's for him Kiddush b'makom Suda. Meaning if we're sitting around and you're making Kiddush on wine, for wine to be your Kiddush b'makom Suda, you can eat now other stuff, fruits and vegetables and other stuff. I can't. Okay?
Again, Pesach, most people are gonna have the Kiddush matzah, wash. No crackers really, so you don't think you really have it.
You're supposed to drink. You're supposed to drink kazayit. You have to eat a kazayit. Eat more kazayit and matzah. Everybody.
I'm saying more.
Oh, you're saying other kiddushim after the seder?
No, I'm saying like after
school.
After
Right, Shabbos morning, Pesach morning. They should be instructed to eat the kazayit of matzah with kedei achilas pras. I hear you.
So,
I hear you. Okay, let me just finish up.
Not you're saying Kiddush.
I will tell you, we have 7 minutes, and I have 3 more things to deal with here. Okay. Pnei Halacha brings down halacha as well that if you're making kiddush in the shul, you should make sure you have mizonot because that's the proper way of doing it. You hear the kiddush, you eat mizonot. Can you rely on the fruits and vegetables, shita giborim and other shitot? It's a very weak reliance. A person should not hold of it. Either drink enough wine, then you can eat everything, or make sure you have mizonot, or don't eat if you're not going to have kiddush b'makom Suda. Okay. You should know that the Gra, we'll end up with the Gra on this topic. The Gra says no such thing doing. Kiddush b'makom Suda means kiddush where bread is. Nothing else. That's the Gra, right? Not like the Geonim. The Vilna Gaon was completely kiddush, Suda, bread. Like Tosfot. Nothing else works. Okay, now, kiddush b'makom Suda. How fast does my Suda have to start? Can I make kiddush? And an hour later, I'll sit down to bread.
Altar.
All right?
Still altar.
So the Ramah says altar, which means immediately.
Right away.
Immediately. Shabru also says you shouldn't even interrupt for a short time. You make kiddush, straight to bread. No hanky-panky games here. Right away. straight to Kiddush. That's in time. Now, location of the meal. Kiddush and Makom Suda, what does it mean b'makom, in the place? What does the place mean? Meaning, can I go home, make Kiddush in my living room, and then eat in my dining room? Can I make Kiddush on one floor and then eat on the second floor?
No.
Can I make Kiddush in the house and then go out to the sukkah?
No, if you could see it.
So you bring in good.
Yeah.
So there are different opinions.
See the place.
I'll let you on your own time to read the Rosh and the Ran over here. How you understand the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi seems to be saying that a person could have intention, kavanah, to go and eat somewhere else, meaning I make Kiddush here and I have kavanah to go eat somewhere else. Does that mean within the same house? Does that mean within the same house or outside the house? Maybe I go to my friend's house, I'll make Kiddush here and then I'll go to Merechai's house for the Suudah. Would that work? The Ran comes and he says it's a Machoket Bavli and Yerushalmi. And the Bavli says it won't work. It won't work to go somewhere else, even if you have kavanah. It's got to be in the same place. Shulchan Aruch. Take a look at Shulchan Aruch, source 53. Ein kish el makom suda, or b'bayit echa mipina lepina chasher makom echa. If you're in one big room and you want to go from one corner to one corner, that's makom echa. That's fine. Make kiddush here, you suda over there. No one's gonna have a problem. Shem kish achol b'bina zu, nimlach achol b'bina acheres, afilu hu tarkilin gadol, ein tzar l'chasad l'kadosh. You don't have to make another kiddush. You make kiddush in this corner, in the other corner. If it's a big house, it's fine. The Ramah says sukkah also. Going from your house to the sukkah is fine also. Shulchan Aruch continues and says, this is what Rebbe Chaim said. Shulchan Aruch brings this. You have to be able to see the place. Right? A film mibayit l'chatzer and tzarich chazer l'kadosh. You don't have to make another kiddush. If I'm in my house and I can see my backyard, and make kiddush, I can go out in my backyard and eat, as long as I can see it. V'yesh amrim, shem kiddush b'makom echad, al dat l'achal makom acher, chopper dam. It's also fine. This is only if it's in the same house. Okay, there must be ikr. This is the correct view that you can go from place to place as long as you can see it. Let's say you make kiddush in one house to eat there, and then you went and ate somewhere else. You have to make another kiddush in that other house. Okay, Yalkut Yosef, and then we'll look in laws of Shabbat just to summarize these laws. Yalkut Yosef writes over here: if you made it tonight, stipulated mentally, to go from one house to another house, or go from one room to another room, and he also sees it, meaning Reb Pinchas is my neighbor, right? So I can look through my window, make kiddush, and have kavanah to go to Pinchas' house to eat, and I can see him.
Good. It's no good.
She says it's fine.
No,
As long as there's a need for it.
So why
you just wrote
Kiddush b'makom suda. Where you are.
As long as you can see it, it seems to be that they're saying what you can see is your makom. And therefore I can see Pinchas' house. I can go into Pinchas' house and eat my suda there. Okay, Pinchas, be careful. I might crash next week. Okay, if I look there, they come inside. All right, now just to sum up these laws of makom, kiddush, makom, suda, we're going to look in the outside the Tzurba for a moment. We're going to look in the Chayei Olamim, and he writes as follows. By the way, we talked about being kaveh suda on wine for kiddush. That's only wine, not for beer, whiskey, and other things. Even though you can use chamar medina for the Shabbos morning, you can't be kaveh suda on that. Just so that for a second. Okay, page 238. Okay, ideally, even within the same room, one should eat his meal in the place that he heard kiddush. Right? Even though we said go from corner to corner is fine, better to make kiddush at the actual place you're going to eat. However, if one wants to move to another corner, even a very large room, he may do so. One may initially move to another corner of the room, even if one has intention while he's hearing kiddush, he wants to move to the other corner of the room in order to eat the meal. Okay, one room to the other, it's fine, but make kiddush the place you're actually going to eat. One who wants to eat his meal within the same house in a different room, or from one house to his courtyard. One may listen to kiddush in one room with the intention of leaving, provided he can see the place where he wants to have his meal. However, if one cannot see the place, or he did not have kavanah, he should not move to another room. If he did anyway, he does not have to recite another Kiddush. Right? That's from the Chazon Ovadia. One who has explicit intention during Kiddush to eat his meal in a different home does not have to recite Kiddush again upon going to the other home. However, this should not be done. Right? This is if I can't see his home, but I have kavanah to do it. Right? Yosef Chaim, I can't see his home. Joe over here can't see his house, and I made Kiddush, and I had kavanah to go to his house and eat. So he writes over here for Chazon Ovadia. Technically, I'm not allowed to make Kiddush again, but I did wrong. I shouldn't have done that. It's only allowed if I can see it. Okay, so that's Kiddush for Malkum Suda. There's a lot of halachot here. We did a great job in finishing it up, but I would suggest you to go over it again, listen to the shir again. There's a lot of halachot to jam pack in over here. Main idea is sit down, get your meal, get ready, and enjoy a Shabbat meal. Don't start jumping from place to place unless there's a tzarech l'kach. There's necessary to do so. Okay, we'll end over here for today. Yeah, it's on. I have it recorded. I'll show you where it is. Okay, we have minyan. Rabbi Hanan ben Gesher Omer, wake up, Tzio. Rabbi Hanan ben Gesher Omer, tzarech HaKadosh Baruch Hu zakol Yisrael. Lefikach chirba lahem Torah u'misvot. Shneimar Adonai hafetz l'man tzedko yagdil Torah v'yadir.
Amen.